Okay, everyone. I feel like we're more people now than we were before, so that's great. Yeah, definitely an improvement. Okay, great. So now we have two more talks. So I won't annoy you with anything. Let's just go straight to the next speaker. So Peter Gärdenfors, who is Professor Emeritus in Cognitive Science at Lund University and was treasurer in 1972 and vice chair sometime in the late 1970s. Let's give a kind of applause.
Thank you. Well, my memory is not what I remember that it was. Mark Twain said that when I was young, I could remember everything, whether it happened or not. Now, when I'm old, things are getting worse. I can only remember things that didn't happen. So I have a great deal of sympathy for that. So my story begins 1972. That's 50 years ago. And it's me, Svante, and Bengt Hansson who were present at the 50th anniversary. I think if anybody else in the room was present, please raise your hand. But yeah. And I tried to remember what happened. I thought that Ingmar Hedenius, who was then the most prominent Swedish philosopher, at least he was prominent inside Sweden in the political debates and so on, that he gave the speech. But Svante says that no, he would talk at the Christmas party some other time. So I don't know who was the guest of honor or who gave the speech at the 50th anniversary. My mind is quite kind of muddled when it comes to what happened in the different years and who was speaking and so on. So I hope you forgive me if I tell you some lies, but it's not intentional at all. As you said, Alex, I was a treasurer in 1972, and the number 438972-2 is engraved in my brain since then. That's the postal giro account of the Philosophical Society. And at that time, there were no computers, nothing electronic. Well, the first hand calculators had appeared, but everything was done by hand. And that meant you had to send out all the announcements for lectures, all the requirements for payment of the annual fee and so on by ordinary mail. So I leaked a lot of stamps. And you couldn't use the university mail because that really was a private society. You had to pay your stamps for the things. So I remember, that's what I remember most from my time as a treasurer, leaking stamps and all this mailing stuff. And I tried to think of who gave talks in these early 70s, and I don't remember very many people, and I get confused between who gave talks at the department, who gave talks at the society. The only thing I'm pretty sure of is that Georg Henrik von Wright came from Finland and gave a talk on deontic logic. And as a student, he was one of my heroes. He had written a book on logic, language, and philosophy. I've forgotten, Logik, Philosophy, and Språk. Yeah, logic, philosophy, and language, which was a main reason why I became a philosophy student. I really loved that book, and I loved his way of writing. He was a very clear writer. So he was my hero. And he came to give a talk on deontic logic, and I was so disappointed. Talk was very boring. The logic was very trivial. Anyway, that's my only real sure memory from a speaker during that time. Philosophy department was thriving. It was growing slowly, but surely. Haldén, as Svante mentioned, had introduced the analytic philosopher. I was attracted. I came from mathematics. I was attracted because I was interested in logic, but I started doing philosophy of science and epistemology and other stuff. So for me, it was a good time at the beginning. Yeah. Svante mentioned something that he promised that I would say, and that concerns a particular feature of the philosophers. I talked to some other people later from other disciplines in the humanities, and they said it was always easy to recognize the philosopher in Lund because they always wore corduroy jackets and sandals without socks. That was a kind of dress code for the philosophers. Do you know how you recognize a Swedish tourist abroad? They either wear conch in a backpack or sandals with socks, or both. That's how to recognize a Swede. Okay, end of parenthesis. Then I became the vice chairman. I never became the chairman, and maybe that's very good. For some time in the middle of the 70s, I don't remember the years at all here. I mean, that's a big confusion. But I can tell you that at the end of the 70s, there was a bit of crisis for the philosophical societies. And that was due to two students, Arno Werner and Bernard Gabet, who were disappointed with the philosophical education because they thought it was too much analytic philosophy, and there was almost nothing in continental philosophy. So they decided, in particular Arno Werner, decided to start something called Philosophicirkeln, the philosophy circle, that was came into being competition of the philosophical societies. And Arno Werner was maybe not the best philosopher, but he was a very good marketing person. And he got entangled with the Folkuniversitetet. This is a public education thing, and he made them pay him for running this philosophy circle, and he was very good with media, and he made a lot of announcements. So during a couple of years, this philosophy circle really grew. I mean, there were hundreds of people that started in Karolinasalen in Kungshuset, but after a while they had to move to the main aula of the university building. And they drew hundreds of people. And we, the few of us, were sitting with these obscure lecturers in Kungshuset listening to some small philosophical problems while he was having these enormous. So that was really a crisis for the philosophical society for some time. And he was very successful, and he actually, Arno Werner, really actually tried to make a coup d'etat. He tried to become the chairman of the Philosophical Society. And we were a couple of people who stopped that. I mean, there is this annual meeting, you know, Årsmöte, and he had proposed that he would become and he had a couple of people that supported him. But we made Hans Regnell, then an old philosopher, become the chairman, and we solved the problem that way. Now, Arno Werner died quite some years ago, and Philosophicirkeln disappeared for some years, but it still exists. It came back, and now it's run by a psychologist called Sven Jönsson, and they still have a program, but it's not so much philosophy anymore. I mean, it's general problems in society, and yeah, it's much more in the social areas. But Philosophicirkeln still exists, but it's not really a competition to the Filosofiska Föreningen anymore. So that was a period when there was a kind of, well, I wouldn't say stress, but still we in the society felt us oppressed by this Philosophicirkeln, because they stole a lot of our audience, and yeah. Then I don't remember much, because I haven't been that active concerning Philosophical Society. I haven't been that active in the society, unfortunately, since I left my position as the vice chairman. I never became the chairman. So what I want to say next is that there's always been a very good relation between the philosophy department and the Filosofiska Föreningen, and it's been difficult to separate the two. I mean, it's been a very strong unit within the philosophy department. So I want to say a few words about what happened to the philosophy department more than the Filosofiska Föreningen. And I don't know when it happened, maybe already in the 80s, but definitely in the 90s, the department became very international. Well, slowly but surely, we changed from being a local institute, and when I started, I mean, the big department, I mean, in the late 60s, early 70s, it was Uppsala that was totally dominant in Swedish philosophy. But slowly but surely, Lund took over, and we became, I think we are the most internationalized philosophy department in Sweden now. I have no figures here, but that's my impression. And how this happened, I don't know. This is, I mean, we have imported a lot of PhD students, postdocs, lecturers, and so on into the department. And now it's obvious that I stand here speaking English rather than Swedish. I mean, it goes without saying. So this is an interesting question. I would like to have maybe some discussion tonight. What made us so international? I came as a student, had no ambition at all of being international, and then I met Bengt Hansson, who had spent a year at Stanford, and I was very envious of him being abroad for a year. I mean, I thought that was very, very fancy. So I wanted to do something like that myself. And I must say, I really succeeded. I've been traveling like mad the last three decades. So, yeah. But I'm not the only one. We have lots of people have been spending more or less time abroad. Within cognitive science that I represent, there was a period when we sent out our PhD students from Lund for at least a year, and then they came back and finished. Yeah, so that's an interesting story. What happened? What happened to the department? Another good thing about the philosophy department is that I must say we have had during the years very good administration. I mean, when I started, the bureaucracy wasn't that tough. There was bureaucracy, but it was bearable. And slowly but surely, it's been growing, and you get more and more demands from the faculty and from the university. But I think that people in the administration of our department has been very helpful, and we have had less of a pressure than most other departments. Maybe one factor is that our department has been successful in attracting lots of grants. And we've had some really big grants. I mean, right now we have the responsibility thing. We had a CCL grant, and we have lots of other big grants here. And according to the university rules, that means the overhead money stays with the department, and that made actually the department quite rich, which is, I think, without again having figures, that we are the richest department in the humanities faculties. I mean, in terms of we have the most freedom. That doesn't mean we are rich. That doesn't mean we can afford to have a lot of lectures and students, but we actually have a lot of research. We're a very research heavy department, and I think that's a consequence of this internationalization of the department. So yeah, and also I was kind of proud when the university had this research quality investigation in 2008. And it came out in the report that Lund has one of the best philosophy departments in Europe. That's what it said. And I thought I was a bit surprised, but I think that's, I think it's true. I've accepted it since then. So that's quite good. Then my final topic is Kungshuset, the King's House. When I moved in, we were not alone. We were not alone. We had psychologists on the third and fourth floor. That was in the late 60s. There was a psychology lab on the fourth floor in Kungshuset, and there were the historical museum had still some containers there, so you could go up on the fourth floor and see skulls from I don't know from where, but they had some yeah. But then after a few years, the psychologist moved out, And then I was theoretical philosophy, practical philosophy, and history of ideas. And I don't know, do you know, Svante, when history of ideas moved out from Kungshuset? They left, no, okay. Thank you, 1991. Thank you, Victoria. So then we were only two philosophy subjects. Okay, because I got the first chair in cognitive science in 1988. So there was a period of overlap there. And we were allowed to start the PhD education quite early. And so this group also grew and so on. The philosophy department was slowly renovated. We didn't only have the second, the third, and the fourth floor, but we also got access to the first floor. I mean, Karolinasalen used to be the big room for dissertations. Everybody defended a dissertation. But then in 99, there was a big, before that we used even the ground floor of the Kungshuset. Cognitive science was located there. But in 99, there was a big, yeah, the fourth floor wasn't renovated until then. I'm sorry. Yeah, it was renovated in 99, I think. And so then we had all the whole building. And then there was a big library. The Karolinasalen was turned into a very beautiful library. Extremely beautiful. I mean, it was well decorated and it was well functioning. And I really loved that library. So we had I think, I mean, I have a personal thing here. I was allowed from 99 to sit in the tower room of Kungshuset. And that was, in a sense, the best part of my academic life, to sit up there. But then, when was it? I mean, 2013 or something, we were, the faculty decided that we should move out of the Kungshuset. And their argument was that the building was not suited for students, it was not suited for handicapped people, and so on. And I was so bitter to hear, because all the previous chairmen had been working on renovating the building to get access for people with wheelchairs and so on, to introduce an elevator in the building. They had all tried and failed for different reasons. I mean, sometimes it was the university administration, sometimes it was the fire authorities, sometimes it was Riksantikvarieämbetet, that means the Cultural Heritage Institute. They all protested in one way or another. So the chairman never succeeded in renovating. And then was kind of bitter to hear that was the reason main reason we had to leave the building. And now, finally, since 1 month, there are scaffolds outside Kingshuset. I mean, it's been empty for 6 years since we left it. Nothing has been in the building. It's also a very sad story. Now something is happening, and it will turn into the university administration that is growing like a strangler fig. So okay, I'm still a little bit bitter. Blodek and I were writing an article in Lund where we were actually insulting the rector for doing this. But I mean, all the people, there was an almost unanimous protest against us leaving the department. So that's a sad story. I mean, I'm not complaining. We got a good place here because we were so late to decide in moving here. We got the top floors. That was maybe a reason. Maybe Björn can tell us more about that process because he was active during that part. So I still miss Kungshuset, but I don't complain here. And I think, in particular, the PhD students got much better condition in this building, so that's a benefit. I mean, we were a bit jammed, and in Kungshuset, and the department the house would have been too small for us now anyway, because the department has really grown. I was surprised to hear the number of people who are employed here now. So we need more space. maybe we grow enough to move back to Kungshuset once in the future, but okay. So I'm sorry, at the end, I didn't say very much about the Philosophical Society, but as I said, there's always been a good relation between the department and the society, and I hope this relation will remain, and that we have this society as an extra outlet to invite people who come and maybe not talk about what's on the curriculum, but talk about other slightly more general or slightly more odd topics in the Philosophical Society. I think the society plays an important role in being this kind of waterhole for yeah, all kinds of philosophical ideas. So thank you very much, and congratulations. One more back. Okay, thank you. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Right. We are a really big department, and we recently discovered, though, that we, because of cognitive science, we have still more alligators than PhDs in theoretical philosophy. So there's room to grow more. And I just wanted to mention one more thing, that it's.
Can I just say that? I forgot to say that, but we are the only philosophy department that has chimpanzees, alligators, and ravens as employees.
Yeah. And also some PhD students from time to time. And robots, yes. Also double as PhD students. And I just wanted to mention one more thing. It's really interesting that you talked about von Wright, because when we were going through the archives, we saw like a big letter exchange with von Wright, and we were like, they were very insistent on getting him here, because it was like, can you please come? And he's like, no, I can't make it. And then, can you please come later? No, I can't make it. Then, well, how about next month? It felt like a lot of stamp licking was going on.